Hello, Heidi Ho, and welcome to Cast That Movie, the podcast where two guys from the Midwest who have no business discussing movies and discuss them and put their stamp of non-approval on it and try and fix it, even though they've never stepped foot near Hollywood. Normally, it would be Joad and myself, Tom. This week, you got myself, Tom Van Horten, and special guest with me today is the one, the only, Joe Froemming from the joedown.blog and podcast above a convenience store, Talking Twin Peaks. Joe, how are you doing, buddy?
Whoa, wait, we're not talking about the season finale of season 2 of Twin Peaks? What's going on here?
No, you got Tom today, not Paul.
Some bitch.
Bitch. You would suck it in.
I'm excited to do this. I miss Joad around, but we'll probably talk about why he had to miss this for a bit. But I'm excited to sit in. I do not have his perfect podcast voice. That's one thing I love about Joad. That voice of his.
Dude, there's a reason why I don't do the show with him when I don't wear pants when we do the show together. He's got a perfect podcast voice.
It's perfect. Yeah, I love. And he also grounds you.
Yeah, we're having no grounding this episode. We're going to be in Shitsville.
Yeah, we don't have the Dean Martin to your Jerry Lewis. We have two Jerry Lewises now.
Yeah. So this is going to be a little different because, yes, well it be known, Joad has always been kind of my ground, my anchor for when I go off on all things tangents. And Joe is more of a enabler of my tangent tree, as it were. Is that a word, tangent tree?
We're going to go with it.
We're going to go with it. We're going to make that a word. So we're going to do a couple of things this episode. It's going to be a little different format than you guys are used to. We're going to forego the ads this go around. Truth be told, Joad is the salesman when it comes to the ads. He runs around and gets the advertisers. So the fact that he's not around this particular episode, I was unable to do that. My job is more research and that type of thing. Joe does the advertisements. Speaking of the advertisements.
Yeah. Tom, you know this Ted Mills guy?
I've known Ted Mills for years.
Yeah, the box guy advertises on this. Talks real slow. Kind of like the human form of white noise. This cadence makes a Nirvana album feel like a Paul McCartney Christmas song.
Go on, sir.
Tom. All right, I have issues with this guy and how he operates his box business. Yeah, like last week we had this thing. You guys had this ad. He's going out of business, and you know what? Good.
Oh, whoa. Wait. What do you mean good?
This son of a bitch had it coming after what I experienced, man. You see, I ordered a box from Ted Mills.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. It was not pleasant. All right, so about a month ago, I heard his ad on your guys' podcast, and I just happened to be in need of a box. So I, got the stimulus check. I was like, you know what, I'm going to help out a small business. This guy sounds like he needs it. Man, it wasn't good. Okay, for one, I ordered the box, and it's $12 for one box. That's kind of steep, is it not, Tom? Am I crazy here?
You're not crazy, but to his fairness, it's the best box you're ever going to get. So I've been told.
Tom, then he said, this Ted Mills guy says it'll take 3 to 16 business days. It's just a weird time frame, man. That should have been red flag number 1. But it wasn't. It was number 2 because the price of the box was red flag number 1 to me, man. So I'm livid. Like I'm telling you this story, man. It was a jarring encounter. Okay. So a month passes. I ordered this box on May 1st. Suddenly it's June 4th. By this time, I just forgot. Like, whatever. It's $12. let it go. I went to a liquor store. They got me a box for free. You know, it's not the end of the world. It's whatever. Like Ted Mills got my $12. Whatever. So it's like this Thursday. It's like 4 p.m. This beat up Pontiac Le Mans parks on my street. The thing is brown. There's this green door. Oh God, it was jarring. My neighbors were all sorts of suspicious. This guy gets out and he comes up to my door. Doesn't knock. He's just standing there. just standing there. If it wasn't for the fact that his car didn't have a muffler, I would not have known he was there. But unfortunately, I heard this fucking thing blowing up onto my street. Oh, God. So this guy's on my porch. You know, he's on my porch. He's like in his 40s. He has this gross acne. I thought it was a birthmark at first, but then like when I squinted real hard, it was like a canyon of little zits. It was really just, oh. He's wearing all denim like Chuck Norris in Invasion USA, man.
Yeah,
except under his jean jacket, he's got this Thin Lizzy shirt. So like, at least he might have some good taste in music. But again, I have no idea who this is. This is just some weirdo at my front door. I say, hi, what can I do for you? And in this like really slow cadence that jarred my memory, he says, I'm Ted Mills. You ordered a box. Tom.
Yeah, Joe.
You know, this is like something out of Fire Walk with me. Like, I feel like here. And here's the thing. Mills is out of the Twin Cities area, and I'm in Fargo. So I'm thinking, did this guy drive 4 hours to deliver me this box I ordered like last month? I am so goddamn confused. I tell him, yeah, I ordered a box, and he just stares at me and lights up his Lucky Strike. And he smokes it in complete silence, crushes it out, and he lights it up another one right away. He stared at me and smoked 3 Lucky Strikes without saying a goddamn word.
Oh, fuck me. Oh,
like, this is like, I'm thinking like Ted Bundy, like, man, I'm going to die. This guy read Catcher in the Rye, and John Lennon's already dead.
No, fucking Ted.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. So what happened, Joe?
Well, he's also got this 3-liter of Faygo grape soda.
Yeah.
You know, Faygo has the 3-liter. The guy drinks so much of it, Tom, he drinks so much of this. His lips are purple. He's got purple lips from drinking Faygo soda.
Oh, Christ.
Yeah, so it's just, I break the silence and I'm just like, Ted, can I have my box? He takes this huge drag from his smoke, looks upwards to the heavens, and says, that's the problem.
What?
Yeah. I'm just so confused. So I'm like, what problem, Ted? And he just kind of stares at me, and he's squinting. I don't know why he's always squinting. It wasn't very bright out. Maybe he needs glasses. I don't know. So he says, see, I don't have your box. I ran out of boxes. And he just stands there and smokes on my porch. So this, again, we reviewed Fire Walk with Me. I feel like I'm running into a Chalfant here.
Oh, fuck. Yeah.
Yeah, Tom, this guy drove 4 hours to tell me he didn't have any boxes.
Jesus Christ. Does he not have a phone?
I don't know. I did it all online, man. I did it all online. He had a GeoCities website.
Oh, Christ, Ted.
No, I just want this to end. This guy's just freaking me out. I'm scared, man. Like, I'm just like, I just want to get away from this guy. Like, he's like a human red flag. Mm-hmm. And then he just kind of like stares at me. He's like, I can't give you a refund. I'm sorry. Okay, it's $12, man. Am I pissed? Yes. Am I pissed at you guys for having this advertiser on your show who says he sells boxes and then it turns out he doesn't? And then he gives you a home greeting about why he doesn't have the boxes? No, he doesn't even tell me why he doesn't have the boxes. that's the messed up thing. He just ran out of them. So, yeah. So then Ted, he's just standing there. I'm like, okay, well, like, whatever. It's just, you don't have the box. Keep the $12. You could have just emailed me from your GeoCities site or whatever. I did not need this man on my property. Well, then he stares at me a bit, and he tells me he ran out of gas driving up to Fargo.
Oh, Christ, Ted.
Yeah. I say that's unfortunate and try to close my door. You know, like it's one of the, like I'm doing the Larry David, like I'm trying to wrap this conversation up.
Yeah. I've had you do that to me.
Yeah, like it's. But then he's like, he looks at me. He's like, I mean, I drove all the way here to tell you about that box I couldn't get you. Could I get some gas money?
Oh, Christ, he didn't.
Yeah, and so I'm feeling like I'm in a Monty Python skit directed by David Lynch. Like I'm trapped with this guy. Like he's not going anywhere. He's just standing there with his 3-liter of grape Faygo soda and his Lucky Strikes. And my neighbors are staring. So I told him he already has my $12. Like I don't think I should have to give him any more. But he says, then he goes like, well, that was then, and this is now. And regarding more money for something I didn't get. I asked him, what's he mean by that? He's like, I don't know. Which is like, it's a perfect response because it makes me on the defensive, but I don't like it.
God damn it, Ted. No, he didn't fucking do this, Joe.
So I just wanted to say, I open up my wallet, I pull out a 10, and I give it to him. And he's like, yeah, this won't be enough to get me back home. And,
oh, my fucking God.
Yeah. And this is what I say to him. Well, Ted, life is unfair. I spent $22 on a box I never got. And he says, $12. You gave me 10 outside of that transaction.
Oh, my God. Ted.
So he's splitting hairs with me at this point.
Fuck.
Oh. So, and then eventually he's still standing there. This whole thing feels like 15 minutes, maybe 20. He's just smoking nonstop. He's just being awkward. You've heard his voice, right? Obviously, you guys run the ads, but you feel like if you don't help him, he's going to Cobain himself.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's just, he's this sad sack. But I'm not giving him any more.
I was going to say, you're not going to give him any more money. You didn't give him any more money, did you?
No. So he looks at me all strange. He looks at the tenner I handed him, takes a huge swig out of his soda, which, once I saw how he drinks the soda, no wonder his fucking lips are purple.
Oh,
I'm just mad here, man. I'm mad. So then his caveat is he walks away because he's like, I don't know how he's going to get home. Not my problem. I've had it up to here. And then he tells me, okay, remember, if you're ever in need of a box, Ted Mills is your guy. And he walks back to his car, starts it. It sounds like a shotgun blast, remember, because he has no muffler on it.
Yeah.
And that was that. That was it. He drove all the way here, creeped me out, tell me he didn't have a box that I ordered, keeps my money, and then asks me for more money. Man, look, I don't know how you guys do business here on Cast That Movie, Tom. You guys really need to vet some of these ads. This is not normal.
Oh, Christ, Joe. Okay, well, as I stated earlier, I don't do the advertisements. Joad does. Now, this upsets me to my core that you had this experience. Thank God Ted's store went out of business. That said, I'm going to give out my personal email address, which is Thom Van Horten at gmail.com. Anyone that's had an issue with Ted Mills or any one of the other advertisers that have gone on and have a complaint, please email me directly so we can address that going forward. And I will talk to Joad. Obviously, he's going to hear this, so I'm going to let him hear it, and then he can respond on that regards, and we can have a discussion about the type of advertisers that we have on here. Again, Joe, I've known you for years. I've known Joad for years, and yes, I have known Ted Mills for years. So immediately when you said the acne, the purple lips, the squinting, yeah, he is like my personal Lodge character. I think that's why I kept him around. He used to do music with us, or we tried to help him out musically years ago when we had Nisbet Records. So, fuck. All right. Well, I think that's why Joe did it. He did it as a favor for Ted. I honestly don't think I've ever seen any money from that advertisement. So, I don't ask. I don't tell. It's kind of a don't ask, don't tell when it comes to that type of thing for us. So, fuck my life.
Yeah, it was frightening. My neighbors, they weren't happy about it. We had this whole community gathering about him. They told me not to have any of my friends show up anymore. So there goes my backyard barbecues for the summer. God damn it. Whatever. You know what? It's done. It's done. Ted Mills got $22 out of me. Life's too short to worry about it, man. Like, just, God.
Let's tell you what, Joe. Let's go to break. We're going to go to an ad. We're going to do a music break. There'll be no advertisements, but let's take a music break quick. We'll discuss this off the air, and we'll come back. All right? We'll be back in just a few minutes, folks.
Well, the future just a fever dream, past thing but a healthy love.
Okay, well, I'm glad that, again, Joe, thank you for taking those few little bit of time there. In the interest of recording, it's only going to be a few seconds for you guys, but I'm glad we came to an arrangement, and you're going to get your barbecue parties back. That I'd pull that favor for anybody. So let's get in. We're going to, again, different format. Let's get into the retrospective portion of this, which is why I wanted to kind of bring you on. We'll talk about some of the other movies that we casted, and kind of get your impressions of what you thought. How's that sound, Joe?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, and then we actually have we're going to do a cast that movie with you and I. We do have a movie picked out that we're going to recast, and we have a dream project. Do we not?
Yep, there's going to be many. People will know. We'll talk. We're not going to go deep like you did with Island of Dr. Moreau, but people know this story. It's one man's hubris somehow was his undoing, which is actually a lot of the themes of his work that made him famous in the first place.
Absolutely. So there's your teaser, guys. All right, so let's start with the episode. We did Ballistics, X versus Seaver, and also for the Dreamcast Net when we did the Pink Floyd movie. What was your thoughts on that episode, Joe?
I loved it. For one, I love the Pink Floyd project. That was what really engaged me. You and I go back to even high school where we were just reading books on the band.
Mm-hmm.
Just obsessed. I loved it. Ballistic, X versus Sever. I remember seeing the DVD box.
Yeah.
We had like a lot of them. I worked at a place called CD Warehouse in St. Cloud, and like this was one of those movies that people bought. Again, in like the early to mid 2000s, people bought DVDs a lot because it was just they were dirt cheap at the time.
Mm-hmm.
People would buy this and just sell it right away. And like I just looked at the box and was like, it didn't look like anything I'd be interested in, so I never watched it. And after hearing you guys' review and your warning to not watch the movie, I heeded your guys' advice.
Well, I'm glad you did. However, I do have a request that you and Joe do that movie at some point this year for a Joe Down. Doesn't have to be anytime soon, but that is an open challenge for you guys to do Ballistics X versus Sever Joe Down style.
That'd be interesting. How boring is it though? That's like the cardinal rule of the Joe Down is like if it's boring, it's just not fun for us.
Let me put it. There's so much to this story, like to this movie. I mean, there's a reason why it's a 0%, right?
Yeah.
There's a reason why it's 0%, and there'll be a lot of things for you guys to be snarky about. If you sat through all the Fast and the Furious movies, I think you can handle this one.
And I'm trying to remember. You brought it up. This was started off. It was like Leon the Professional versus somebody else, right?
Yes, it was supposed to be Chow Yun Fat. It was supposed to be the killer versus the professional.
That seems so weird to me because the Professional, well, it's kind of technically an action movie. It seems like more of like a character piece from what I remember of it. So it seems weird to throw him into like a high octane action.
Yeah. Chaos had some interesting ideas, and again, this was just filmed at the wrong time. I think if this was done now, with the success of a lot of these high octane martial arts movies that come from overseas, this would have been. I don't think there would have been as much meddling as what occurred. I think people saw it, and it was just not what, especially in the when it came out, was what U.S. audiences, when it came to an action movie, were prepared for. I think, I think he was trying to go for something along the lines of a Hitman versus Hitman version of Fury Road, I think was his vision.
Which would be an excellent idea.
Excellent idea. So I totally get that. Now, when it came, you and I have talked about the Pink Floyd movie. Now, Joad and I had two very different visions when it came to the Pink Floyd movie. Joad really wanted to kind of focus on more of a period, where I wanted to go over the entire length of the band. What did you think? Like, if you could make a Pink Floyd movie, what would your Pink Floyd movie vision be?
I told you, like, after I listened, I was really excited. And like, I kind of had an idea if I were to make one. I would probably do a period piece. They have so much to do an overarching biopic. Like, if you're going to do that, it has to be would have to be 3 movies. It'd have to be like Sid till like Dark Side to the final cut, and then final cut to the end.
Yep.
That's just the only way you can really. There's so much going on with those guys.
There was a lot going on. Was there anything that I know that you had corrected, you had helped correct us, but was there anything that we didn't touch upon that you can remember that you thought we should have?
No, I think you guys hit the main beats, because a lot of it is the thing with Pink Floyd, especially with Roger Waters, and like in their once they start getting more successful, I think there's a double-edged sword in which, for them, it seemed like what is homage and what is profiting off of Syd Barrett's, descent. And I think that's something all the band members have struggled with. Just because, Dark Side of the Moon, Wish You Were Here, and The Wall are all huge albums with one common thread, is that a lot of those songs are about Syd Barrett.
Absolutely, yes.
And
yes.
I think there is like, I don't remember it just seems like I've seen in interviews where they just like, I don't know if they feel regret of profiting off it, but I think it's just like, it's jarring, I think, to them after a while. And they still did it. Like, Division Bell had Syd songs on it. And,
absolutely.
And frankly, and I'm just going to say it here, because the Gilmore era of Floyd, like without Waters, is almost 99% hot garbage.
Thank you for saying that, because that's my thought of it.
I used to like Division Bell, and I think I tried to talk myself into liking it, but I really only like High Hopes on that album. That's the only thing I thought was like a Floyd song on there.
That is the only Floyd song on there is High Hopes. I actually will admit I had a girlfriend who in high school knew I was a Pink Floyd fan. She bought me that album. We broke up. Because I was like, you don't understand Floyd. We can't be together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I like the period piece or rather the overarching. If I were to do one, I think I told you it'd be like a Scorsese casino thing where it's coming from two different points of view, like how he uses De Niro and Pesci's point of view in that movie. But I would do it as Waters and Gilmore.
See, and I think that's one of the things I talked about was that, there's a lot of hearsay when it comes to Pink Floyd, because you have this person's story, you have this person's lens, you have this person's lens, you have this person's lens. You and I have read, I think I've read 3 unauthorized biographies from all detailing different point of views and contradicting each other.
Yeah, and that's just it's just because I like to think that it's probably just because they started believing their own bullshit. Here's the thing with Pink Floyd, I love them, but each member is wrong. For the most part. Yeah. Except for Nick Mason. He's the only constant in that band.
Which is he
doesn't really talk shit about the others. The other basically Gilmore and Waters are just
it's toxic.
They believe their own hype, and which is ironic that Waters wrote The Wall and he ended up becoming a lot like the Pink character in that with that band, recording that album.
Yeah, there was kind of a life imitating art imitating life circle.
Yeah, he thought he knew better. Yeah, he thought he knew better than Bob Ezrin, who was producing it, and they butted heads over that. Infamously, Gilmore and Waters during Dark Side had different mixes that one would remix it one way and the other would come in a few hours after the other guy left and remix it another way. These guys are just they're talented, so no wonder they have the egos, but Jesus, they're wrong. They're just both wrong, in my opinion.
I'm glad you see it the way I do, because that's how I feel. I feel they're both. I think everyone's wrong, and in a way, everyone's a little bit right. I think there's a lot of things there. Okay, well, what did you think of the Island of Dr. Moreau, both the redo and the making of the Island Moreau Dream Project?
I loved it. It was so I listen to these. I go on these 2-hour walks on my days off. I'll listen to your podcast. I was sweating from excitement listening to this because this is one. It wasn't until a few years ago I actually saw the documentary you referenced, Lonely Souls, I think, or
it was. Was it Lonely Souls? It was something. Yes, but go on.
Yeah, so I saw that a few years ago, and I had no idea how fucked up this whole making of was. To me, it was just one of those generic movies from the 90s of our youth that, I remember seeing the trailer. It looked really bad, and I never saw it. And then I watched that documentary, and I was like, holy shit. Wow. So, you doing all that research and, giving all these facts that are outside of the documentary I saw was insane. How they even got a movie out of that whole experience has got to be at least give them an award for that.
Well, yeah, and it was Lost Soul, the doomed journey of Richard Stanley's Island of Dr. Moreau is the name of the documentary. I completely agree. The fact that they even came out that the movie was done is insane to me.
Yeah. So then you guys' cast. I was only upset by one thing. You guys didn't cast Brian Dennehy as the replacement director. He had just died. You guys didn't even throw him a bone. And it's a common thread. Look, so I have my ongoing jokes with Tom and Joad. Mostly with Tom because he used to do a show called Weird News with this damn guy.
Yes.
And here is a correction I have. You said in the podcast, because I jokingly referred to Speed 2 Cruise Control, Joad had a perfect response in that, that'd be easy to recast. You just get the other guy back. You said you hadn't seen it. That was wrong. You admitted seeing it on Weird News, and then after that, I would bombard you with questions from IMDb I found of Speed 2 Cruise Control.
Yes, I would do. So I did a live news show, both on Facebook and on YouTube, and I would do it live in the mornings. And Joe was one of my always watched it, and every time he at me about questions about Speed 2 cruise control. And lately he's been on a big Brian Dennehy kick, so I have promised him that at some point with one of our recasts, I will get Brian Dennehy in on a roll.
Oh, he's not a bad actor. It's just funny. Brian Dennehy, he's he's a character actor. It's like that Patton Oswalt bit.
Yes.
It's like, we're fat. We're character actors. We can be fat.
We can be fat.
That mentality is great.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, so Island of Moreau. Yeah, I was sweating with excitement. That was great. Like, just the factoids, like, I forgot you guys were even going to be casting after you laid all that information out.
Oh, yeah.
And then went into the dream project of who's playing what. Oh, yeah, that was just great. I loved it. I loved both of your guys' ideas of the making of movie.
Yeah, I thought there was. I like I said, I would see both. I would saw both versions of what we had came up with. All right, well, let's move on to. I know you were excited about this one off air. The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle.
I was excited because I remembered in the early '90s being just baffled at a video store because there was a straight to video movie of Boris and Natasha.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason that just stuck in my mind. Like, God, it's because I was just like, there's no Rocky or Bullwinkle in it. Like, why would they make a movie of these two characters? Like, even at that young age, I was all skeptical about stupid movie premises. Mm-hmm. And so when you guys did this, you're like, yeah, I'm not going to do the heavy lifting after Moreau. And then I was just like, yeah, do you ever remember that Boris and Natasha movie? And you're like, oh, fuck.
Yep. I was like,
oh. It does tie into like how this movie was made in a bit. It's basically the daughter of the creator
wanted to cash in after dad died.
Plus, I think there's, with like agreements like this, they have to make something at a certain point or they lose certain rights, I'd imagine.
Correct. Yes, it's a film thing called which is basically called canning, which is when you buy the rights to something, you have so the contracts, how they typically work are you have either a certain number of movies you have to make or you have a length of time in between the movies. So most places now go with the length of time because so for example, that's why we got that horrible Hellraiser, the most recent Hellraiser movie that came out. What happens is that a lot of times at these movies, as long as they're made, their contracts are done. They don't have to go out and be filmed. I mean, they don't even have to make it to film. They just have to be made and put in a can. Basically, it's called canning.
Which is the infamous story of the Fantastic Four.
Exactly. The Roger Corman Fantastic Four movie. Absolutely. Which is another great documentary if people haven't seen it. And so that's essentially what Boris and Natasha was, but they figured they can Showtime can make a couple bucks off of it and get some subscribers off of it, so they threw it up on their channel service. Yeah. Now, I was surprised to see that Rocky and Bullwinkle, Joad has said he had to watch it in film class. Now, you and I took film studies. I don't know. Did you take film studies?
In high school and in college. I snuck into it. I was such a bad student that they had to throw me in an easy class just to get a passing grade for film studies. But in college, yeah, I watched. We watched good movies in my film studies class, so I never watched Rocky and Bullwinkle. We watched like Network and Coming to America and all these things that are kind of like parts of film history.
Mm-hmm.
Unless I skipped the time where we covered the complete bullshit of Hollywood. I never saw it in film studies.
But that was my thought. I'm like, why did you see Rocky and Bullwinkle? I don't understand the merits of seeing Rocky and Bullwinkle for film study.
Yeah, unless, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to say he didn't. I just think it's really weird.
No, I think he did. I think he absolutely did. I just was shocked by the, like, why?
Was it, maybe his professor was really hungover that day?
Well, I've had.
We're going to watch Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that where they, where I've had both in high school and college had teachers that were hungover and made us watch bullshit. So definitely could have been. On that same episode, we did the birth of SNL. What was your take on that?
I thought it was good. That's such a weird story of how SNL came to be and the egos involved.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was good. I would not put Lorne Michaels anywhere near that movie.
That was my thought.
Because he's going to whitewash it. Like, I love Joad's, like, casting. I would not want Lorne Michaels anywhere near it because he's going to whitewash it. He's a control freak about the image of SNL. So you'll never see, like, anything with his name, like a true story behind the scenes.
Yeah, that was my takeaway from it. Again, and I had I get kind of the advantage, I feel like, when we cast these things because I do the research. So, I was that was my thought completely. I think this is the following episode. We did something I think you guys did on the Joad, which was Jingle All the Way.
Yeah. Boy, this is a dog shit movie. It's just, everything about it's wrong. The casting's wrong. The premise is wrong. The writing's wrong. Everything about it just didn't make any sense to me. We tore it a new asshole on the Joad. I like you guys is trying to sell. I believe this is one you were trying to salvage, and Joad was like completely redo it.
Yes. So this is my take on this one was this is one I want to dig into because I felt was some of our more interesting casting. Mine would have been a Farley Spade project, and he went with LeVar Burton and Bruce Campbell.
Yeah, because he was doing the Sam Raimi thing of a dark comedy. I liked it. LeVar Burton was a weird choice, but I would see it definitely. I liked your idea, but like, was it John Hughes as your director?
John Hughes is my director. Yeah,
I couldn't see Farley Spade because when I associate them with like the Happy Madison bullshit. Unfortunately, I just couldn't see them in a John Hughes movie. I don't think he'd be able to rein back those egos at that time.
Okay,
but yes, but I think it would be interesting I'd watch both, but Joad threw the trump card out there with Sam Raimi with me, so he won my heart.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
with Bruce Campbell too,
and Bruce Campbell. As
the mailman. I would kill to see a movie of Bruce Campbell as a pissed off mailman.
Oh, dude, he would kill. He would absolutely kill. Yeah, he threw the Sam Raimi and the Bruce Campbell trump cards at me as well, and I was taken back when he threw those ones at me because I was like, you know what? He used those cards before I did, and I really expected to use those cards before him.
Yeah, when we did the Twin Peaks podcast, I did that to you with the Michael Ironside.
You did, yes. Oh God, yeah, you did. So then Theranos, what do you think about that particular story?
That is an interesting story. I knew it just a little bit, but like your research and talking about it, wow, what a house of cards that woman built, huh?
Oh, it's unbelievable, and it's still not done yet. I mean, the court cases aren't.
After lie, oh my God, it's interesting, and Clickhole did an amazing, Clickhole's associated with The Onion. Like, what was it, like a verbal history of this? Where it's just like, it's made up and it's bald. But some of this, their version was less crazy than the reality one.
And that's the thing. I mean, when you look at everyone that was involved and everything that happened in this Theranos story, and there's been, I think, 2 or 3 documentaries now. I think there's 2 books out there about this. It's unbelievable, and again, it's ripe for movies. It's been discussed as a movie for years, and it just hasn't made it anywhere. And I'm still shocked that it hasn't been done.
Yeah, and like your observation that she's probably sociopath, and that she mimics, and like I remember seeing her picture, and I was like, God, she's trying to look like Steve Jobs. Well, yeah,
Yes.
you're talking like, yeah, when she starts picking up the mannerisms and stuff, that's just imitation. That's what sociopaths do, is they imitate what they think are how people act.
Exactly. Yeah. She's a sociopath. She is mimicking human behavior and trying to emulate, and because she can't relate.
And she doesn't know. She can't tell the difference between right and wrong.
Absolutely.
Gets her and all the shit that she's in now.
Absolutely. And to be fair, a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of business owners and a lot of successful people in politics, in business, are sociopaths. It's just, it comes with the territory. It's just, they usually have someone there to kind of rein in their right and wrong, their sense of right and wrong. And she, instead of embracing that, kicked everyone out of the room that would tell her she was wrong.
Yeah, that's good. That'll be interesting. I'd see a movie. I think there's one on Hulu I'll probably watch after we're done recording this, just because this jogged my memory that I have to watch that, because that story just intrigued the hell out of me.
It's fascinating. It's so fascinating.
People who were like in government, like in presidential administrations. Was it kind of Kissinger at one point?
Kissinger, Mattis, yes.
That is
all on her board of directors, dude. It's insane.
All because she didn't like to get pricked with blood, huh?
All because she didn't like to get pricked with blood. Yep, that's what started this whole fucking mess off. Okay, well, then finally, our most recent episode was the Street Fighter and the story of Macho Man Randy Savage, our macho episode.
Oh, God. This was great, too. The Joad, we did, one of the few times we do podcasts, we did Video Game Month, and we did Street Fighter. So Joe Brown came to my house when I was living in Bemidji. He drove up from the Twin Cities, and we watched, and we were so confused watching this movie. And once you find out, like, the backstory of why, it makes total sense. Oh God, this was. I feel so bad for Raul Julia. Just like,
I know,
this great actor, and like made part of my childhood, maybe yours, with Addams Family, because that was a movie that I remember just loving as a kid.
Absolutely. And
wow, they did him wrong.
Everybody was wrong in this one.
Yeah.
D'Souza had no control. Capcom wanted their own thing. Fucking Van Damme still has blow amnesia about this movie. He doesn't remember fucking doing it.
Oh yeah. And I did research. There's more to the story after you guys stopped, because there's more to the movie after the movie comes out. And I just listened to this on a podcast called "How Did This Get Played?"
Yeah.
It's on video games. And they did the Street Fighter, the movie, the game.
Yes, and I've played that. Yes.
Yes. So what happens is they get the cast to do the pixels, or the digitized, because what happened is they wanted to make it like Mortal Kombat.
Yes.
With like digitized characters. Capcom didn't like the idea, and according to the podcast, didn't give them basically the meat and potatoes of making a video game, and that, the move lists, not like move, but how characters move and all that. Like, they refused. So they went in this game kind of blind and off the mechanics so they couldn't emulate the past Street Fighter games.
They didn't give them the code.
They didn't give them the code, the coding or whatever that they could base just the basic gist of the move sets and all that. And how the game flows and all that is like, they were denied that by Capcom for reasons I don't know. And Van Damme comes in. It's supposed to be like an 8-hour day of doing the camera work so they can get the moves for the game. He leaves after like a half hour, I think.
Oh, Christ.
So there's parts, if you play the game, there's parts where it's Van Damme, and there's parts where it's a stunt double.
Oh, God.
Basically going back to what the problem was with the making of the movie.
Oh,
so it
Jesus
continued
Christ.
into the game, and then the game just...
Oh, the game was a pile of shit.
Yeah,
The
they
game
didn't
was
have the proper coding from Capcom to make it flow well. They had problems with the cast again, but considering how bad the graphics aren't that great back then, that it's like I don't know why they needed the cast.
Oh, Christ.
People who generally looked like them, but yeah, so that spilled over into the making of the game.
Holy shit.
Yeah. I suggest listening to that podcast. It's bonkers. I'm just like, wow. Like it just kept going. It just kept going. Like this was and they couldn't. Raj Rui was too sick at that time to do it, so it was his stunt double.
Oh yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
But yeah, so parts of it will be Van Damme as Guile, and other parts as stunt.
You know, I would go back and play it, but I can't bring myself to do it. I'll probably I'll have to listen to the podcast. I'll look up some videos on YouTube. I'm not gonna be able to replay that fucking mess.
Game,
it's a terrible game. It was really, really bad.
Yeah, that's back when they tried to digitize everybody. There's a WWF game that was kind of like that. That sucked too.
Yeah, was Steel Chair Challenge? I think it was that one. I can't remember exactly, but yeah,
they had like moves like in Mortal Kombat too. Like Undertaker had ghosts fly out of his hands.
Yep.
But it's
yep, and Shawn Michaels had hearts fly out and.
Yep.
Yep. Oh, I know the game. Yeah. It's terrible.
The 90s was a bad time for both film and video games.
It was rough.
Yeah. I don't know why Capcom and the studio wanted to make a Mortal Kombat looking game out of their intellectual property.
Jesus Christ. Well, and again, the movie, the cut that we got, it's a G-rated cut.
Yeah.
You know, if the movie's rated G, they dropped a swear word in there to get it to PG-13.
The main problem is he didn't want a tournament movie, which doesn't make sense because Street Fighter is all about a tournament.
Right. Yeah, okay, enough. We could go on that one for hours. And finally, we did Macho Man.
Yeah, Macho Man is a complicated guy.
I think I glossed over a lot of things in that one.
We don't need to go over all of it too. People can find it. You guys
there's a lot of dark things.
Talked about the Behind the Ring or whatever, where our Dark Side of the Ring on how Miss Elizabeth's life tragically turned out. Yeah. Macho Man was but he is a charismatic guy. I have complicated feelings because I love that old school wrestling, but knowing like how some of these wrestlers were in real life it's hard to divorce myself of the character versus reality.
I have the same issue. I completely have the same issue with you. Yeah, that you do, because I do. I mean, I grew up on old school wrestling, and you know, I absolutely love it. And even now, I mean, I don't watch wrestling. Like, you know, Joad had brought up the fact that I'm kind of a wrestling fan, which I am, but I don't watch it per se, but I keep up on it, if that makes sense.
Oh, I do too. I have YouTube channels I watch just finding out what's going on. Because a lot of times now, especially the behind-the-scenes stuff is way more interesting than what you see on TV.
Right.
AEW now, like WWE talent.
Yep. So, and I will admit, when Robert Rodriguez was doing Lucha Underground, I was watching Lucha Underground because it was Robert Rodriguez.
Yeah. That was on Netflix, wasn't it?
No, well, it was on Netflix for a little bit, but it was on his channel, which was I thought it was an acronym for Dusk Till Dawn.
Something.
But, yeah. Channel. What was it called? Give me just a second, because I want to be able to. El Rey. It was the El Rey network.
Yep. Based off the character from.
Dusk Till Dawn.
No.
From
the Grindhouse movie he did, Planet Terror. The main character is
As El Rey. Yeah, but they also mentioned El Rey was the town they're trying to get to.
Yeah.
In Dusk Till Dawn. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Both also have the great Michael Parks. I just want to but
yes,
that's a whole another tangent. But yeah, Macho Man there's not going to be a happy story about most pro wrestlers. So I'd imagine for you both, that was both an interesting but not exactly a fun cast.
Yeah, it's dark, right?
Although I did like, what was it with Mean Gene? Just throw the bald cap on Mark Ruffalo and throw a mustache.
I wanted a bald cap on Mark Ruffalo. It's my movie, goddammit. Give me what I want.
You want where's Mean Gene's biopic?
Yeah, right? I have a feeling that'd be a crazy biopic, too.
I don't know enough about his backstory. It could be, for all I know.
Just have a feeling on it.
Yeah, he's got some darkness there.
Well, that was fun going down the nostalgia alley there and getting your impressions on it. And again, I like to do that about every 5 or 6 episodes, so we'll have you back again, and we'll do that. But we decided we're still going to go ahead and do some cast that movie, and a dream project. Joe, what the fuck are we doing?
All right. So I got this idea after, you guys turned down my Speed 2 Cruise Control, which you most definitely watched. And you guys were right. At doing a sequel, you just get the cast. And then I was like, well, wait a second. What if you do a prequel? And you don't touch, And I was thinking, what's a bad prequel? And it just took me hours to think, what is a bad prequel in cinematic history? And after I couldn't find any, I decided, well, I might as well just go with the Phantom Menace.
Yes, because Phantom Menace never came in your mind as a bad prequel.
Yeah, no. So I figured that's kind of a nice workaround in that you don't have to recast most of the main cast because they're all new, except for Anthony Daniels.
Yep.
But he's just in a robot suit, and so you don't need to recast that. So So what we did is decided, well, we'll do the Phantom Menace, but we'll do the characters that the new actors coming in, because everybody knows the story. George Lucas is like Laura Flynn Boyle. He's his own worst enemy.
Yes.
And if you watch the Red Letter Media, Mr. Plinkett's reviews, and then you can even watch other, even the behind-the-scenes special features on the Phantom Menace, you can see Lucas's people around him nervous.
Very nervous.
And they're not they're yes men, because apparently George Lucas has an ego.
Who would have thought George Lucas had an ego? Yeah, so go a little bit briefly into this. So when Star Wars, the original one, came out, Lucas had all these crazy notes, and this is, you guys can look into this. And the brilliancy that Lucas had around him at the time was the studio going and people saying, that's a great idea, but what if we did it this way? That's a great idea. What if we did this? What if we did this?
And most infamous is his now ex-wife saved the movie in editing.
Yes. Yes.
And De Palma came up with shortening the opening crawl. The original opening crawl was 3-4 minutes long.
Yep.
And it just goes off on the wills and midichlorians and shit like that. The stuff that we love about Phantom Menace now. We just didn't. People didn't have time for that in 77.
No, unfortunately they didn't. We could have had midichlorians in 77. No, but you're exactly right. So, and one of the most infamous things that in that behind the scenes of the Phantom Menace and the making of is that George Lucas himself says we have to make Jar Jar work. If Jar Jar works, everything fits into place. And what happened? Jar Jar didn't work. And Jar Jar was going to be the tie, and this has come out now, where the voice actor who did Jar Jar, said, "Hey, Jar Jar was supposed to be the big bad. Was supposed to be this. It was actually this Sith, and was going to come out and do all these things. But because he was so hated in the first movie, they cut him out to minimal in Attack of the Clones, and what was the last one called? I don't even remember. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wouldn't even make sense. This character, yeah, the character steps in shit at one point. It's just fart jokes. There's no way Jar Jar was ever going to work, because the writer is George Lucas, and so here's a little tangent. Me and Brown did American Graffiti for a Joad, and that's when I realized George Lucas does not know how to tell a story.
No, he doesn't.
He sold American Graffiti, and it got praised for being a slice of life. I do not think that's what he intended that movie to be.
No, I don't think it was either.
Thinks random shit on a movie screen is entertaining.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. He lucked out on people thinking it was this amazing coming of age slice of life movie when really it's just shit happening on a screen. I feel the exact same way.
There's no real thread line in it. It's weird. So like we did that review, and so he comes in. He claims he wrote 9 movies. I call BS. He wrote enough for 3 movies with the original Star Wars script. That's why it spills over into Empire and Return of the Jedi. Is like he had a lot. He's a great ideas man. He just does not know how to stick the landing on his own.
Mm-hmm.
Enter the 90s. He's okay. I'm going to do Star Wars the prequels. He asks Ron Howard. He asks Steven Spielberg to direct. They're like, no, George, you got to get back in the game. Really bad advice.
Really bad advice.
He asked Lawrence Kasdan, who wrote Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi and the Indiana Jones movies, to write the script. He's like, no, I think you got this, George. More bad advice.
Yeah.
And so what we ended up with was the Phantom Menace. And we were in high school. I think this was our junior or senior year when this came out.
Yeah.
I think it was the tail end of our junior year, and that
I think it was the tail end.
Yeah, and it landed like a lead balloon. Like I knew we had friends who did the midnight. I don't know if you went to the midnight showing.
Fuck no, I didn't go to the midnight.
We had we had friends though who were like waited overnight, and then like the next day at school we're like, oh boy. Just their eyes went dead. Yeah. And those dead eyes never came back.
No. Now, this is also one of the first movies where people camped out, not just for the movie itself, but for the trailer.
Yeah.
When the trailer was announced, people were camping out to go to the movie that was going to have the trailer. The trailer. Yeah, this will be a big deal. So, what fucking happened? Well, basically, when everyone, as you just said, everyone said, Lucas, you got this. So, Lucas started with working with Hasbro before even getting out and doing the movie, and had an unprecedented 7% stake in Hasbro, the largest manufacturers of which license his creations. And so he had this lucrative deal made where even if the movie didn't do well, he was going to keep all the merchandising rights.
Which he restored when he made the first Star Wars movie. To help finance it, he got all the licensing rights for toys, T-shirts, and stuff, which was nobody wanted that in the 70s. And he built an empire off that.
Yes. He made buco off of that. So what Lucas did with this one is he fronted the entire $115 million budget himself, because when he decided, when Spielberg and when Lawrence said to him, you got this, you do it yourself, he's like, well, if that's the case, I'm going to do it all myself. I'm not going to deal with what the studio did to me in the first 3 movies, because I'm George Lucas and I know what's going to happen. So all of it was his bottom dollar. So no one could say to him or come to him with anything other than basically yes men, because he had the entire budget paid for by himself.
And this is one of the reasons I wanted to do this movie on Cast, in that it's almost the opposite of the problems that the movies you guys reviewed, in that there's no studio interference. There's no like shell companies just siphoning off money. This is just one man's hubris.
Yes. This was Lucas was his own word. Like, there's no one to blame for what happened with this movie other than himself.
Yeah. It's bad. And
it's bad.
I remember seeing in the theater, and I was excited because like we grew up on Star Wars.
Yeah, absolutely, we did.
This was like we grew up in a time where the internet was there, but it wasn't. I wasn't on like chat rooms where people were just like hating on each other for fandom. So we kind of had like that golden era.
Yeah, we did.
So like we didn't really have a whole lot of other points of view coming in besides our circle of friends on Phantom Menace. And so like when our mutual friends saw it and they're like, "Man, this is a fucking bad movie," I was like, "Yeah, it can't be that bad. It can't be that bad." And I went and saw it with my parents. And I walked out, I was like, "Wow, that was bad."
Yeah.
Like, how do you fuck up a Star Wars movie?
Yeah, I can't remember who I went with, because my parents didn't go to movies, but I did go to see it in the theater. I think I might have went with Mojo. And, oh my God, like, yeah. Because I think my junior and senior year, there was this card and comic shop that was downtown across from the Java Joint. And I would hang out downtown in between the Java Joint and the comic shop. And, like, people were like, "This is really bad." Like, I remember having discussions about it with them, and no, it can't be that bad. And then someone was like, whoa, this is bad. So that's what that was. Joe, since you're the guest here, we'll start with you. Who would you have directed instead of George Lucas?
So I'm not saving this script.
Mm-hmm.
In my mind, I'm putting a director in who it's not, I don't think he's the greatest choice, but I think he's a solid choice in that he's done sci-fi type movies before. He knows how to make a hero's journey, and he also knows how to make bad guy interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give it away here. In 92, he directs one of the best action movies of all time with Terminator 2. I'm going with James Cameron.
Yep. Yeah, James Cameron would have done really well.
And I think he can do... We've seen it, like, we've talked about this on the Twin Peaks podcast, like, I'm not a fan of Titanic, but I can appreciate his embrace, because he's like Lucas, he embraces the technology.
Yes.
It wasn't until, like, Avatar, like, he went overboard with the technology, where you look at Terminator 2, it's used effectively rather than too much.
Overly. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I think mid-90s Jim Cameron would be he's my choice.
So my choice is a far left field choice, but not really, because this guy was asked to direct Return of the Jedi at one point, and he wasn't doing a lot when this movie came out.
I think I know where this is going.
You know where this is going. David Lynch is going to do my Phantom Menace.
Oh God, I think I just juked in my pants. Yeah, David Lynch. Guy was a long history of hating interference by studios, is going to jump on a big butt, the most anticipated movie in 20 years. I love it.
Right? All right.
Oh.
So, who's next on your list?
All right, so let's... should we save Anakin last?
Yeah, let's save Anakin last. Who do you want to do next?
Let's do Qui-Gon Jinn.
All right, Qui-Gon.
I love my Qui-Gon Jinn.
All right, who do you got for your Qui-Gon?
Dude, I'm going with Sonny Chiba.
Oh, I like your Sonny Chiba.
Yeah, he's older,
Yep.
past in martial arts. I think he plays. My story is, my doesn't take place as Anakin as a child. He's older, and Sonny Chiba is like an elder statesman Jedi.
Yes. Yes. So in mine, because I kind of felt like, Qui-Gon, although be it kind of an elder statesman, there's always been that discussion of, was he dark? Was he light? Like, he kind of walked the line, right? Of a Jedi. So I wanted to pick someone that kind of could do an older gentleman as well, that could do interesting. And I wanted, I like the idea of Liam Neeson, but god damn it, I mean, you got all wooden performances from everybody in this movie, right? And this is a guy that I don't think knows how to do a wooden performance. I picked John Malkovich.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, I picked John Malkovich as Qui-Gon.
Yeah, he plays a good unstable character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and again, I don't think he knows how to play wooden. I think he would have. I think he would take a charge of the set.
Well, if behind the scenes with Con Air, they're changing it so much that he had no idea what the plot was because they're rewriting it, and he's still like the MVP of that movie.
Oh fuck yeah, he is. Oh hell yeah. All right, so then should we go Obi-Wan next?
Yeah, I struggled with this one.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard. All my complaints of Phantom Menace, Ewan McGregor is not one of them, and I thought there's no topping him to play younger Alec Guinness.
Yeah, I would agree with this. Yeah.
So I threw the most generic thing I could think of. I just went with Jude Law because British actor, roughly around the same age, kind of looks like Alec Guinness in a sense.
Yes. He was on my short list. Not gonna lie, Jude Law was on my short list. I went with, I went with an actor who I like. Doesn't necessarily look like Alec Guinness, but I went with Johnny Depp.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I went with Johnny Depp as Obi-Wan.
Especially at this time where he's starting to kind of take off too.
Yeah, it wasn't quite. He hadn't done Caribbean where he's become Captain Jack, but
yeah,
he's got a lot of depth at this point. I thought, he'd be a young, lighten up the hair a little bit, give him some cheekbones and done. So moving on, let's do Padme next. Again, oh no.
Yeah, no, let's go with her. Go on.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead with your Padme.
I wanted what I loved about the originals is like we kind of had Leia's more of a badass than a hapless princess. Like, well, unfortunately, with what's her name, who played
Natalie Portman.
Natalie Portman, she ended up in that kind of position where she's kind of playing. So I went with a more of aggressive actress.
Okay.
A little more edge, because and especially with James Cameron as the director, I think Padme would be less than woman in distress and more of her own independent woman. I went with Angelina Jolie.
Ooh, okay. So my problem with Padme was Padme's supposed to be the love interest of Anakin,
Who was 8 years old.
who's 8 years old at this time. And so I felt that, like, the age thing was really weird to me, right? Like, he grows up, she looks the same.
Yeah.
That was like creepy to me in my mind. So she, at the time, this actress was sane, and was starting to kind of get some influence in there. And again, I'm not going to really change that much of it. And I want to see what Lynch would do with her, because she has gone batshit in her life now. I went with Amanda Bynes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because she was young. So, I think now we got. Oh, go ahead.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around the David Lynch Phantom. Like, I just feel like that just stopped me cold. Like, I should have seen it coming, but then
You should have seen it coming, but that's all right. So who do you have for Darth Maul?
Darth Maul, this actor. In my movie, Darth Maul's more of a character than just a guy who just shows up and then gets cut in half. Again, my characters are older. My Anakin's going to be age appropriate for Padme.
Good.
So it's an older. This is like more of. This is what the problem is. Nobody cared about Anakin as a little kid, so mine's just he's in the Jedi or whatever already.
That makes sense.
So, but with Darth Maul, I wanted somebody who's like charismatic, but also like menacing. And who does that better at this time? He's a few years away from The Wire. I went with Idris Elba.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah,
I like that a lot.
Yeah, he has the makeup, but he still has a top. He's got that British accent. He's smooth a bit. You know, he's awesome.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I had kind of a similar idea. I wanted my Darth Maul to be a character. And this guy was just starting to come up as a major villain in another major franchise. And I love this man, rest his soul. And might as well give him another franchise. And I would have kept Darth Maul. I wouldn't have killed him. Alan Rickman.
Ooh, yes. Oh, Hans Gruber himself.
Hans Gruber himself. Yep, Snape.
Oh.
He would have been Darth Maul and Snape. So now we're down to the Annie. Who's your Annie, Joe?
Annie? You guys cast him before, but since this is kind of like more of an unofficial
Yo, you're
cast,
fine.
who can do at this? He's also a few years around this comes out a year later. His breakout role happens, where he plays menacing but like charismatic at the same time. When this is being made, he's rough. I believe he's still a little younger than Angelina Jolie, but he balances that line with, if there's conflict with him just in facial expressions alone. I went with Patrick Bateman himself, Christian Bale.
Ooh, fuck. Well, yeah, all right. Well, I went with, because again, knowing what was going to become and kind of, skipping several years and getting other actors to play what in my mind both would have been different actors and actresses playing Padme and Anakin. I wanted a child actor that was reliable, that was solid, that wasn't Jake Lloyd. And so the only one at the time I could pull on my ass was Haley Joel Osment.
Ooh. Mm-hmm. He's not bad.
He's not bad, though. All right, so let's debate these picks. I had David Lynch. You had James Cameron. As much as we both love Lynch, I'm going to give you James Cameron.
I would, I think both of us would cut off a foot to see the David Lynch Phantom Menace, but it's just never going to happen.
Never going to happen. Was never going to happen. David Lynch never would have done it.
Oh, certainly what he's doing at the time is, after Lost Highway and going into Mulholland Drive, like, yes, I'm going to do a Star Wars movie.
Dude, the reason why I picked David Lynch is because I'm a believer in alternate, that when you say something in terms of imagination, it becomes an alternate reality somewhere in another dimension. So now there is a dimension where there is a David Lynch directed Phantom Menace.
We got to find our way to that dimension. We need to see that.
Yeah, we do. So, Qui-Gon, I had Malkovich, and remind me who you had?
Sonny Chiba. I think both of these are really good.
I think they are really good. I do like Sonny Chiba a lot, and that's a trump card to me. But so is Malkovich.
Yeah, Malkovich. I think he could. Both of them bring a lot to the table.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're gonna push on that one, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a draw.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them would do phenomenal.
Oh,
I love Sonny Chiba so much, but John Malkovich, Jesus, imagine
Right?
David Lynch movie.
I know.
Holy shit.
There'd be batshit on batshit, dude.
You're checking off a lot of boxes for me here, Tom.
So, Obi-Wan, you had Jude Law,
Yeah.
and I had Johnny Depp.
I think Johnny Depp.
Jude Law,
Perfectly capable, but Johnny Depp has... You're revitalizing a franchise. You want people who have more dynamic elements to what they bring to roles than Jude Law.
Jude Law is solid, but he's not.
I was just looking for a British actor.
Absolutely no, and here's my.
Maybe I should have done Idris Elba as Obi-Wan.
Oh, that would have been that would have won hands down. I would totally would have taken that. let's retcon Alec Guinness. One of the big problems that we didn't touch upon, that was one of the biggest issues with this movie, and kind of goes into the writing of it, was who was the main character in this movie?
In mine, it's going to be Anakin. Because he's older, and it's gonna be Anakin and Padme in my vision.
See, in mine,
there's no protagonist,
and that's the problem. You have to have a protagonist. I'm sorry, you do. It doesn't work when you don't.
He's a huge fan of the hero's journey.
There was no hero's journey in this movie.
There's no hero's journey in it. This was sold as the rise and fall of Anakin Skywalker. He doesn't even rise to anything.
No, he doesn't rise to shit.
By the time Revenge of the Sith, he's distrusted by the Jedi Council. He doesn't. We don't see what Guinness is talking about in A New Hope. He's almost in awe of Anakin. Where what we saw is just oh god, this guy.
Exactly.
And it's the bad writing. Hayden Christensen did what he did with what he was given.
And I don't think Hayden Christensen is a bad actor. Again, I love the movie Shattered Glass.
Yeah, he can act. I think
he can act.
But here's the thing: we got wooden performances out of Liam Neeson of all people,
and out of Natalie Portman of all people.
Natalie Portman. And even in Phantom Menace, Ewan McGregor is just kind of a whiny little dickhead too. He kind of
wooden performance out of Christopher Lee, which how the fuck do you get that? Yeah, it's bad. So for mine, it's Obi-Wan. So yeah, I would have made it for, mine's more about, this is Obi-Wan's journey and Obi-Wan's take and his looking at what this is. It's more about Obi-Wan. So that's why I wanted Johnny Depp. That's why I wanted Obi-Wan to be my super strong character. Padme.
Yeah, I think we got good, solid choices. I'm just going to lean with Angelina Jolie just based off of my director. And
absolutely.
How he, with Sarah Connor and T2, all of James Cameron's faults, strong female leads is not one of them.
Is not one of them. No.
And I'm going to go with you on that. Is going to be more of a, how Princess Leia was, kind of a badass.
Because again, too, with yours, my idea was I was going to get rid of Amanda Bynes in the next movie, just like I was going to get rid of Haley Joel Osment. But you have Angelina Jolie. Again, you're revitalizing a franchise. You want someone that's going to be in.
We're starting right in with Anakin's rise and then his eventual fall, and we're seeing cracks in the surface of him.
Yeah. Yep. So that's awesome. So Darth Maul, we had. Idris versus Rickman. That's tough, dude.
That is tough. I might want to give you Rickman just because I think Idris was pretty young at this time.
Yeah, but I want to give you Idris because I love Idris. So this
I do too. He is fucking Stringer Bell, man. Stringer Bell versus Hans Gruber. I think we painted ourselves in a corner.
That's a toughie. We're just gonna. Yeah, we're going to put that one as a draw because that's tough. That's really, really tough. And finally, I have to give it Christian Bale. I have to give Christian Bale.
If we're going with what Lucas's script, obviously, I think of the time, Haley Joel Osment would have probably been the absolute best choice. Jake Lloyd, I'm not going to shit on him. He just was a child actor who was thrown into a bad situation.
Yeah, he
You
was.
guys talked about it.
It's not his fault.
It's not his fault. It wasn't Ahmed Best's fault that Jar Jar sucked. These people getting, death threats and all that was so unwarranted, and so one of the reasons I don't like talking Star Wars that much.
Yeah.
Because
I've had to separate myself from the fandom.
Yeah, I can't deal with the fandoms. They're just
nope.
And if you're offended that we're saying you're toxic, you're one of the bad fans.
Yeah. If you can't see why we have to separate ourselves from the fandom, and you don't get it, you're one of the reasons why we're separating ourselves from the fandom. I don't feel bad saying that at all.
No.
So, well, damn, that was a fucking good run. All right, well, let's go to break. Remember, there's no ads, folks, so we're just gonna come in and out of music.
Yeah,
and
remember, there's no ads because of Ted fucking Mills showing up at my house smoking them Pall Malls. God, I'm hot about it.
I know. I'll talk you down again. When we come back, we're gonna play a game. Play a game, and we'll calm down. We'll be back in just a few seconds. And we're back. I talked Joe off the ledge again from Ted. I will be having a phone call with Ted after this episode, a 3-way call with Joad and Ted. So we'll get to the bottom of this. In the meantime, we got a top 3 game coming up, and it's going to be the top 3 80s butt rock / hair metal bands. Joe.
Yes.
This is your wheelhouse, is it not, sir?
Hey, man. I'm not a snob. Well, I am a snob when it comes to music, but there's butt rock bands that I can admit I like, and then there's the worst of the worst that I do not like, and I picked the three I just do not like.
This is perfect because the name of the game is top 3. Now, it could be anything, though. It could be our top 3 favorites. It could be our top 3, as Joe went with, our most hated. It could be whatever we want that top 3 to mean. So, Joe, let's start with your number 3 of you saying your most hated 80s butt rock band. All right, let's hear it.
Number 3 has an interesting butt rock history in that its original guitarist went on to be huge with Ozzy Osbourne. As is the rhythm section, played in Ozzy's band of Blizzard of Oz, the debut. But the band they were in and what it became was just a giant pile of shit. I'm going with Quiet Riot.
Ah, yes.
Randy Rhoads was the original guitarist, and he got out, man. Thank goodness.
I went with the top 3. My top 3 is underrated butt rock bands or metal bands of the 80s, and my number 3 is a little unknown band called Manila Road.
Manila
Road. They was founded by Mark the Shark Shelton, Scott Scooter Park. They did a lot of progressive and space rock, but were noticeably heavier in the 80s and came out with albums such as Crystal Logic and Open the Gates and the Deluge, which were known for taking universes and singing songs about things of mythoses around the Conan mythos and H.P. Lovecraft's Cthulhu.
Wow. I wonder if this band inspired Mastodon, because that seems like up their alley too.
Yeah, I really believe that there's a lot of bands that were influenced by this one. Their legacy was, again, they didn't get a lot of radio play, which is unfortunate. But they were really, people should look into it. You really should look into it.
Yeah, I'm adding that to my list of bands I need to listen to.
Yeah. It's called Manila Road, and yeah, it's their stuff from the second lineup, really from like 1982, is really where they started to really hit their stride. Open the Gates, their 1985 album, is fucking really good. Yep. They're big in Europe, but not in the U.S. So, what's your number 2 most hated 80s butt rock band?
Oh man, this band, God, they had a hit, and it was so popular and so awful, and it just every time I hear it, I just want to jam fucking spikes in my ears. Their later claim to fame is they set their stage on fire and killed people. I'm going with Great White.
I was gonna say that's Great White.
Yeah.
Oh damn.
They also did a completely forgettable Led Zeppelin cover album.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were a bad band, man. Oh.
Yeah, not good. Not good. So I went with and this is more of a person, but he's had a solo career, but he worked with a band called Merciful Fate, King Diamond.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. And a 1984 release called Don't Break the Oath. Later in 2001, King Diamond basically started reunited with Mickey Lee, who was a Motorhead drummer. He's a Danish runner. He's guested on Cradle of Filth. He's worked with Dave Grohl on a metal side project called Probot. Check it out. Yeah. Yep. King Diamond.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
I love me some King Diamond.
You like King Diamond. You know King Diamond.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Not a lot of people do. So I'm really glad that someone does. Highly underrated.
Absolutely. Yes.
And was backup vocals on the Puppet Master and Give Me Your Soul, Please. So yeah, really good stuff. So finally, who is your number 1 most hated butt rock band?
Yeah, I'm not even doing a clever lead in. Poison. Fuck that band. Holy shit. Talk about a group of people that it's like mediocrity made a band in the 80s, and that was Poison.
Yeah. All right. So I'm not going to give a lead in for mine either. They had hits, but they were never that big in terms of what I felt they should have been. My number 1 underrated rock band of the 80s was Twisted Sister.
Yeah. Well, they actually had a huge hit.
So that's what I'm saying. They had some huge hits, but they weren't really up there. You know what I mean? It wasn't like you said. You had Poisons, you had your Cinderellas, you had your Great Whites, and I felt like they were kind of overshadowed by kind of that introduction of like the Bon Jovi hair metal.
Let's also bring up that Dee Snider was amazing at the PMRC hearings on censorship.
Absolutely.
Him and Frank Zappa were like the MVPs of that.
Yep.
Dee Snider's a really interesting person. I would suggest people look into him. He's just fucking awesome.
He is. He's a fucking awesome dude. And yeah, Frank Zappa, and who else?
John Denver.
John motherfucking Denver compared the fucking Senate to Nazis. So yeah, no, Dee Snider was, I feel like that they deserve, even though they had some huge hits too, really, they should have been bigger than what they were.
Yeah.
Now I have to say that I'm going to tell you who my number 1 most hated is, and if you want to give me your number 1 most underrated, I don't know if you agree with me or not, but I fucking hate Motley Crue.
Oh, I don't blame you. It's hard for me to say. There's butt rock, and then there's bands that at least like less butt rocky. You have Poison. In the middle, there's Motley Crue, and on the other side of that is Guns N' Roses. And I think Motley Crue falls in the middle there, but I don't like them. But I won't give them complete butt rock status, if you will.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So then, who's your number one you think most underrated butt rock?
Oh God, I'm kind of on the spot here. I would say just because going to the proggy stuff and this wouldn't even be 80s, so that kind of goes out the window. I was going to say Hawkwind with Lemmy.
Yeah.
That was more proggy 70s.
Yep.
Oh, jeez.
If you can't. I just thought maybe you had some insight in that because I know that's a genre that you were very familiar with.
Yeah, I'm trying to. It's hard because there's so much shit there, and I was on the roll on a roll with the crap bands.
Absolutely.
It's hard to remember like the good ones.
Yep.
I'd say underrated. I mean, I'll just say they're not even. This isn't even butt rock, but they kind of get lumped into it. No, that wouldn't even work. I'm just maybe. Nope, I can't think of it.
Okay,
I'm just I'm going like hard, like real metal bands, and I'm like, yeah, no, they would never be linked in with that.
No.
Maybe Guns N' Roses if they're going to be forced into a butt rock.
Well, Chinese Democracy.
So they're not underrated.
No, Chinese Democracy was somewhat butt rock.
That album was so fucking terrible.
It was really bad. Joe, we're under the Dream Project. What is our Dream Project?
The Jackson 5 movie, which was a huge challenge for me, and it kind of made me realize that I need to the media I consume is too white. Coming up with this because I struggled with it. I know the story of the Jackson 5 is just it's hard for me to come up with casting this because this is my fault. I just don't know enough black actors.
Nope, this was a challenge for both of us. I will admit, I'm not afraid to admit the same thing. This was a challenge. Now, you might sit there and think, well, you guys are cheating. The Jackson 5 was a movie. It was a made-for-TV blah movie.
One thing.
Yeah. It wasn't... It didn't get into it. Again, just like the Pink Floyd movie, there's so many lenses. Because so many people have different ideas of what happened here. So I'm going to break into it, and you can join me with this one as well. Just mainly talking about the Jackson 5. You can't talk about the Jackson 5 without talking about a band called The Corporation, which was Berry Gordy, Alfonso Mazel, Freddie Perrin, and Deke Richards. They were responsible for writing, production, and arranging of the Jackson 5's #1 hit singles, I Want You Back, ABC, The Love You Save, as well as other Jackson 5 singles such as Mama's Pearl, Maybe Tomorrow. They were responsible for writing and producing Bless You, which was the last hit for the trio Martha and the Vandells before disbanding in 1972. Like Motown's previous production team, The Clan, which was pulled together to create the single Love Child and I'm Living in the Shame for Diana Ross and the Supremes, The Corporation was intended as a replacement of sorts for the Holland Dozier Holland, who had left the label in 1967 to start Invictus Records and Hot Rax Records. Gordy created the Corporation because he didn't want any more, quote, backroom stars, which HDH team had become. The group members were never billed individually on the original Jackson 5 releases they worked on. Even the songwriters' credits were listed as The Corporation. The Corporation disbanded in 1972 after Hal Davis assumed creative control of the Jackson 5's output. After disbanding, Motown would credit Gordy, Mazel, Richards, and Perrin individually for compilation releases containing the Corporation-created Jackson 5 material. So was something that was going on in Motown at the time. We're talking about HDH, and this was something Berry Gordy was that a lot of those hits that you heard from, say, Marvin Gaye, from a lot of those one-hit wonder bands from the Motown era were not written by them. They were just singers. But Berry Gordy had this really amazing, talented session team that he basically, much like if you ever get into, say, the Parliament Funkadelic, and look at what George Clinton did with some of those people and how he barely paid them and screwed all over a lot of people that worked with him musically. Motown was basically doing this. And I'll talk a little bit about this. I was many, a whole nother lifetime ago, Joe, I was dating a woman online when I was doing my pirate radio show. And she worked for a subcontracted record company and had gotten me a $3 million record deal for one of the bands I was in. And didn't even entertain it, completely turned it down. Because the idea behind it was essentially a $3 million loan. It was $1 million per album. They'll front you the money, but then you have to pay it back through touring, through the CD sales, plus interest.
Yeah,
so
that's a bad deal. That's not uncommon.
It's not uncommon. It's not uncommon. The only reason why I got this deal was because I was dating this woman. And, so if we had gone out and made, say, our first album, we would have gotten $1 million, fronted to us. And then let's say that we only drew in from touring or anything because we were unknown, whatever. We would have drawn, say, 20 grand to be lucky. Well, then we go into the next album. They give us another $1 million. Now we're $1,980,000 in the hole, right?
Yep, you're perpetually in debt to the label.
Mm-hmm. And by the end of the thing, if you don't have the money paid back, then you have to work it off as a session musician. Is essentially how that contract works.
It'll take forever.
It will take forever.
Rest of your life.
Yep. So that's essentially what happened, and this is what Berry Gordy was doing, and got a lot of these talented people was doing this type of thing. So, well, the Jackson 5 brothers was really created by Joe Jackson. Joe found Tito playing his guitar after his string broke and was impressed enough to buy him his own guitar. And Tito, Jermaine, and Jackie soon formed their own group, with Michael playing, who was 5 years old at this time, playing congas, and a childhood friend, Reynold Jones, and Milford Height playing keyboard and drums. Then Marlon soon joined. And in 1965, a model named Evelyn Leahy was organizing a children's fashion show at Forest Glen Park. She needed a band and recalled seeing the group performing in a shopping mall in Gary, Indiana. And she invited them to perform. They didn't have a name, and she named them the Jackson 5. In 1966, they won their first talent show. Jermaine performed The Temptations' My Girl, and Michael performed Robert Parker's Barefootin'. Johnny Jackson and Ronnie Ranseffer eventually replaced Height and Jones. And during their early years, the Jackson 5 would perform at talent showcases at other schools in Gary, Indiana, and the Chicago areas. Eventually, in 1967, they were booked into Chicago's Regal Theater, the Harlem Apollo, after winning talent competitions on both shows that year and winning an Apollo competition. It's claimed that Gladys Knight sent a tape of the boys' demo to Motown, but the tape was rejected and sent back. Well, in 1967, the group recorded an early version of a song that became their first single, Big Boy. But they wrote that for Wonderful Records, but it was rejected. In November of 1967, Joe Jackson signed with the group to Steeltown Records, a label founded and owned by record producer Gordon Keith. With Keith at the helms, they recorded Big Boy again, released as their single. By March, they managed to sign the Jackson 5 to a distribution deal to Atlantic Records, where they had Big Boy and the other single, We Don't Have to Be Over 21 to Fall in Love, which were distributed. They had their first paying performance at the Apollo Theater where they opened for Etta James. In 1968, they opened for Bobby Taylor and the Vancouvers. Later, Keith learned that Jackson tried to get in touch with Motown through his attorney, Richard Arons, because he wanted to be with Motown Records. Taylor sent the boys to Detroit after being blown away by Michael's voice to be set up with a Motown audition, which Gordy initially had rejected their tape, not wanting to sign any more kid acts after Stevie Wonder. Changed his mind, and he returned to Detroit, where he and Joe Jackson and the boys signed their first year-long Motown contract. However, the album was delayed due to a contract dispute with Keith. This would not be the first time that Joe would get them into contract negotiation problems. The boys performed at strip clubs such as Guys and Dolls to make extra money, as well as playing at honky tonks in Illinois in fucking 69.
Oof.
Yes. So, Go ahead.
No, that's just, once you know that the type of person Joe Jackson is, it's not surprising. It's just, God. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. So, on March 11th, 1969, the Jacksons signed a 7-year exclusive contract with Motown. So, after initial recordings at Detroit Hitsville, USA failed to impress Gordy, he sent them to Hollywood. In August, the PR machine led by Susan DePass started to pass the group office and had been discovered by the Supremes' Diana Ross. When the group opened for the record industry insiders at the LA club, the Daisy, Michael was billed as an 8-year-old sensation, even though he was actually 11 at the time. Through the several days, shortly after, the Jackson 5 performed a cover of It's Your Thing at the Miss Black America pageant in New York. By September, Gary had a new songwriting and had created the corporation to exclusively write for the Jackson 5. After recording I Want You Back the same month, the single was released in October, and then they started debuting on the Hollywood Palace, the Ed Sullivan Show. Their debut album, Diana Ross Presents the Jackson 5, was released in 1969. So there was a lot that was going on there. The Jackson 5 basically became Motown's main marketing focus at this time, and licensing dozens of products, including a J5 Heart logo, cartoon deals, board games, posters, album covers. The black publication Right On began in 1971 and focused heavily on the Jackson 5. They appeared on special television called Diana, which is Diana Ross's. So all these things were going on. Well, they had the world by the balls. So what happened? Well, in 1972, despite Michael and Jermaine's solo successes, their records started plummeting. The corporation had produced most of their hits, but split up that year in 1973. The brothers started focusing on disco and recorded Get It Together, followed by Dancing Machine. It wasn't really going all that well. So Joe Jackson grew tired of Motown's uneasiness to continue producing for the brothers. He began producing a nightclub act with his sons and daughters starting in Las Vegas. And by 1975, the Jacksons opted out of recording any more music for Motown. And they started working with Epic Records, which, to give you an idea, at Motown, they were only earning 2.8% of the royalties. Epic, Joe Jackson got him a deal to get 20% per record. He signed that deal. Absent from it was Jermaine Jackson, who decided to stay with Motown following his marriage to Hazel Berry, Gordon Berry's daughter, and Randy Jackson replaced him. Even though the group announced their departure from the label, they still remained under contract. So once again, they had to deal with a lawsuit. So they had to change their names because Motown owned the name Jackson 5. So then they became the Jacksons. And a lot of people go, I don't remember being called the Jacksons. It's because by this time, Michael was just basically done off the wall. And he was just unbelievable. And in March of 1983, with Jermaine, the Jacksons performed Motown 25, Yesterday, Today, and Forever, which, do you know that was a performance by the Jacksons and not the Jacksons Fives, Joe?
I had no idea.
You know why you don't remember that?
Why?
Do you know what that Motown 25, Yesterday, Today, and Forever is known for?
Oh, wait. Is this the moonwalk?
The moonwalk.
Yeah. Because that's around the time Michael Jackson wowed the world with the moonwalk.
Right. He stole the show by doing the moonwalk during Billie Jean. And, you know, Don King got involved after this. They decided that, hey, we're going to do things as the Six Brothers, which became, you know, the song. They were going to do an album release, Victory, in 1984, the best-selling album to date, included their final top 10 single, State of Shock, which is actually a duet between Michael Jackson and Mick Jagger, and did not feature any participation from any of the other Jacksons besides Marlon and Jackie, who were credited as background vocalists.
Yeah, Michael's his star's already beyond. He did Thriller shortly before this.
Yes. Yep.
So called Thriller. Maybe people have heard of it.
Yeah, maybe you've heard of Thriller. Which was considered the best-selling album of all time. Maybe you've heard of Thriller. Yeah. And he had done Billie Jean, Beat It, and Thriller by this point. So yeah, he was already out there. And you know, there was friction between the brothers and shakeup. They brought in Don King, who was fired. Michael said, I'm going to leave. Their final performance was at Dodger Stadium in December, at which point he was going to do his solo career. And then Marlon was leaving to pursue a solo career. We know how that went.
Yeah, this whole thing was done as a favor for Michael because his brothers were in financial problems. This was just like a cash grab that Michael had no interest in doing.
Which led to what issue?
I don't. What's that?
The Pepsi commercial.
Oh.
Yes, because they needed money, and this was a favor from Michael, the brothers participated in a Pepsi commercial, which Michael suffered burns to his scalp due to the pyrotechnic fault, and is actually pinpointed to his problems, was the start of his problems with prescription pill addiction, from pain addiction from that particular instance of having his fucking scalp burned. There was other injuries on this Victory tour, just became a huge problem. Basically, in 1987 was the Jacksons released a single called Time Out for the Burglar, which was included in the soundtrack to a Whoopi Goldberg comedy called Burglar. And in 1989, the remaining brothers, Jackie, Tito, Jermaine, and Randy, released 2300 Jackson Street, which just sucked, and they went on hiatus, and they would never record another album again. Now, we talk a little bit about Joe, and I just want to bring up a little bit here. Joe, this is something interesting that I came across in my research. Joe was alleged to have a long-lasting extramarital affair, and Mama Jackson filed for divorce back in 1973, but decided to drop the divorce papers. And the following year, Joseph fathered a child with Cheryl Terrell. Giovanni Jackson was born. This led Joseph and Cheryl to have a 25-year-long affair while raising Giovanni. And in 1982, Catherine once again attempted to divorce Joe, but was persuaded not to. And despite living separately, they were legally married until he died in 2018.
Yeah. I don't like speaking ill of the dead, but Joe Jackson was a real piece of shit.
By all means, I went into more of the background of like the label side of it, because I knew you had some insight into Joe Jackson.
I mean, Joe, it's no secret. He was abusive, very abusive to the kids. Fame eventually shielded them from his abuses a bit. They couldn't be showing up to gigs with like black eyes anymore. But yeah, he beat them. It created such a friction. Like much, there's a reason why Michael kept a very big distance away from his family in a sense for most of his life after the Jackson 5. Mm-hmm. He kept in contact, but he was not, I think all around, I think Janet Jackson was the one family member that he still kept regular connection with. But yeah, he would never really talk about it in public, but a lot of it's pointed to that Joe Jackson's abuse is the big thing of why he kind of kept a long distance from the family.
So what's really interesting about this is you're 100% correct. Okay. Now, Joe Jackson also was, and we'll talk about this a little bit because I mean, I obviously looked this up. So there's dispute, right, on this.
Most of the siblings deny the abuse happened. Play it down.
Michael was the first one to get up there and say yes, and they were forced to call him Joseph, not Dad, not Father, Joseph. And Michael claimed that from a young age he was both physically and emotionally abused. But was claimed that his father's strict discipline played a huge part into why he was successful. And he came out in a 1993, Michael did, 1993 interview with Oprah, and said that he, recalls a time that Joe would sit in a chair with a belt in his hand, and when they rehearse, and would say things like, "If you don't do it the right way, I'll tear you up, really get you." Now, Joe admitted himself to whipping the children with switches and belts as punishments, but said he didn't do so at random and never claimed to use any object that he felt would imply the word beating. Now, Joe and Catherine have denied the abuse. Catherine has said that the whippings and physical punishments were common back then. Now, Jackie, Tito, Jermaine, and Marlon are the only ones that deny that the father was abusive. The other ones have agreed with Michael on that.
What's the one sister? The one who was psychic for a while.
LaToya?
LaToya was big on that too. She was very outspoken on Joe Jackson's abuse.
Mm-hmm, very. So, I felt like, this would need to be addressed. So, do you have anything else to add to the background before we get into our casting?
No, I think we covered it. Obviously, the abuse and the fame and all this wreaked havoc on Michael's psyche. Mm-hmm. No questions. We won't get into too much of that because everybody knows.
Yes.
He spiraled hard.
He spiraled
after the early 90s.
Yes. He had a very difficult life in the 90s, and was plagued with things. But and there is still back and forth on those things. So
we'll leave that out for now.
We'll leave that out. So who do you have directing the Jackson 5 movie?
All right. So I picked this director because he did a good biopic of a band with complicated relations recently. He did the NWA biopic.
Ah, okay.
I went with F. Gary Gray.
I like that. I went with someone who's been kind of on a run lately, who can do both comedy and horror, and is known for both. I feel like you've got to have kind of that. There's a merger here, and I like to see him do something like this and get into a dramatization. I went with Jordan Peele.
No, he's on my list as one of the Jacksons, actually.
Oh, awesome. Well,
yeah, I had Jordan Peele in mind too. I think he would have done a phenomenal job.
Okay.
So like my movie's gonna focus actually on a specific period, and it's gonna be the Victory Tour, which is gonna be my thing. Because if it's gonna be a biopic, I like biopics that are more contained and not trying to get it all in, which is why I struggled with the Queen biopic and the Johnny Cash biopic. Like, we get great performances, but it's just you're covering too much.
Fair enough.
But yeah,
so who do you have next on your list? What order do you want to go in?
Let's go with Joe Jackson.
All right, who do you have as your Joe Jackson, sir?
Well, I wanted somebody who was menacing but also charismatic, and who does that and age appropriate, as he's an older guy compared to the rest of the cast I have. I went with Ice Cube.
Nice. I went with someone you picked earlier.
Oh. You went with Idris?
I went with Idris Elba.
Oh, you win this one. He's a trump card, man.
Yeah, I went with Idris Elba.
The only way he would have got topped by this was if we picked Clint Howard.
Well, or Mark Ruffalo in a bald cap. Yeah, I went with Idris because exactly for that reason. I think he's charismatic and can be sinister as fuck. All right, so should we start with Jermaine?
Jermaine, yeah. He's become kind of like the spokesperson for the family, so I think I would have him as a little bit of a bigger character in this too, but we have a lot of characters in this movie. I went with I'm going to butcher this name, but he was in Get Out.
Okay.
Lakeith Stanfield.
Yes.
He played the brainwashed guy who has the tear running down his eyes. He's reciting like racist bullshit or whatever. Yeah. I think he would have done a good role with this.
I agree with you that I don't want this to be all over the board. And where you are going with the Victory Tour, oddly enough, I'm going the opposite route. I'm going to the rise of the Jackson 5.
Kid actors.
So I went with kid actors. So for my Jermaine, I have Bobby J. Thompson from My Baby's Daddies, Fred Claus. He was in That's So Raven. He was in he played Tracy Morgan Jr. He was been doing a lot of things in this idea. So he was in Tyler Perry's For Better For Worse. Okay. Yep. He also guest hosted 10 years ago. He was a guest host on Raw. He is currently now on Wild and Out on the Disney Channel, I believe.
Okay.
Yep. And he's been known to play people. In 2006, he played Gary Coleman in the unauthorized biography, a story of Different Strokes.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
That's a solid choice.
He's a solid actor, my friend.
Wow.
All right. So next I have Tito listed next.
Okay, we'll do Tito. Who'd you pick for Tito? I mean, this is Tito Jackson we're talking about.
This is Tito Jackson.
You can't just kick out a name like it's nothing.
No, I picked someone who's kind of had a fall from grace as an actor and deserves, I think, a second chance. And his old man really wants these kids to be in acting. I picked Jaden Smith.
Ooh.
As Tito Jackson.
Wow. Yeah. He's a weird kid, man.
He's a weird kid.
I like it.
Weird character.
Wow. Yeah. I like it. He's an interesting person.
Yep.
Very interesting. Him and his sister.
Mm-hmm. Him and Willow, yeah. Now again, I mean, I'm still going with the Rise. Again.
See, I'm with. They're already kind of has-beens at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Michael's the star. My Tito is your director. I went with Jordan Peele.
You went with Jordan Peele.
Yes,
sir. He could play Tito.
Oh yeah, he's Tito.
In
my universe, yeah, he could do it.
All right, so let's do Jackie. Let's do Jackie next.
A lot of these
I want to save Michael for last.
Yeah, I struggle again. I don't know a lot of black actors. Again, that's something I'm going to work on. But I also don't know shit about Jackie Jackson.
Sure.
But I went with just off kind of like the looks and stuff. I went with John Boyega.
Yes, I could see John Boyega as playing it. I again went with a kid. Was on Community a little bit as Jordan Bennett. Was on Everyone Hates Chris as Toddler Chris. He's been in a few other things, such as Brockmere and The Bachelors. Anyways, I went with one Tyrell Jackson Williams. He was also in Failure to Launch. He was the little black kid in Failure to Launch.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I like it.
Yep. He's my Jackie.
Yeah.
So who do you have as Marlon then, sir?
Marlon?
Yes.
It's not. He doesn't really look like it, but I was struggling. Mm-hmm. But I do like this actor a lot. I went with Michael B. Jordan.
I like Michael B. Jordan. Yeah,
I do too. I like him a lot.
Yeah.
Just, he knocks it out of the park.
So,
yeah.
No, he's phenomenal. He's phenomenal. So my Marlon is basically the two things that he's really known for right now is in the Bosch TV series, he's Joe Edgar. And in the Black Panther movie, he was the young Killmonger.
Ooh.
I went with Seth Carr.
Nice.
Yes, sir. So that is my Marlon. So now we're at the big kahuna.
Oh, yeah.
Now you have an adult Michael. I have a young Michael.
Yep. I have a Michael hot off the heels of Thriller.
Mm-hmm.
And and Off the Wall. And this, who I chose, I think he has the charisma to pull off Michael Jackson. Mm-hmm. The childlike wonder that we saw with him in Community with his good friend Abed. I went with Donald Glover.
Yeah, no question about that.
I think he could pull off Michael at this time. He doesn't look a lot like Michael,
mm-hmm.
but he has that charisma. He has that star to him that he just pops.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt.
I went with Donald.
Yep. So I went with someone that has a little bit more TV background, a kid background, but when I look at him, I see someone that I think could play a young Michael Jackson. He has two older sisters that are also very musically inclined. So I think there is that there, but he's mostly known for right now as playing Zanny in Jamal and the Geralds TV series. He plays, he's been unaccredited in several episodes of Drunk History. And he was in the TV show SWAT. I went with Alexander Arzu. You might have to look that one up. He's not well known.
Yeah, but I have no idea who this is.
Yep. Well, when I saw him, I went, "Oh, this is. I found my Michael."
How do you spell that last name?
Arzu. Arzu.
Okay. Oh yeah. No, I know. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, you look at him and you go, wow, he looks like a young Michael Jackson, or
He
could
does.
play a young Michael Jackson. Yeah, no doubt about it.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, we had two completely different views. And no, in this particular one, it's more difficult to do the back and forth. Because we're doing two completely different movies, but we can still discuss. So, director-wise, I had Jordan Peele, and who did you have again? I'm sorry.
F. Gary Gray.
F. Gary Gray. Yes.
Straight Outta Compton.
Yes.
Fast and Furious movie. I'm gonna say Jordan Peele, I think, is the better director. But if he's appearing in my movie, he's doing dual roles.
Well, yeah, and I could definitely see, I mean, him doing this. I mean, yeah, Straight Outta Compton. He has the background for it, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, he did dual roles in that as well. I mean, he cameoed in most of his movies. He's cameoed just like Kevin Smith kind of does.
Yeah, he did Friday too, and Italian. He's got a weird
resume.
His feature films. It goes from like Straight Outta Compton and Friday to The Italian Job, Be Cool, Men in Black.
Men in Black, yeah, absolutely. And he's also done a lot of music videos as well, though.
Yep.
He did Ice Cube's "It Was a Good Day." He did Cypress Hill. He did Fantastic Voyage. I mean, this guy, he did Outkast's Miss Jackson. I mean,
Waterfalls by TLC.
Yeah. I mean, this guy, Keep Their Head Ringing by Dr. Dre. I mean, this guy, he's impressive, though. So I'll take it. I mean, if you're going to say Jordan Peele, I'll take it. But F. Gary Gray has the resume for it, though, and I will totally.
I think they're both good, but I think I like Jordan Peele's work.
Yeah.
Better. From Key and Peele to Get Out. I still haven't seen his latest movie, which I really want to see.
Which is Men in Black?
No, Jordan Peele. Us.
Oh, Jordan Peele. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Jordan Peele. Us.
Us. Yes.
He's such an interesting guy.
He is. Like, he goes from comedy to horror, and that's why I kind of felt like that would fit into this Jackson 5.
Especially with a character, somebody like Joe Jackson, you kind of have to have that element.
You have to have that element, and then you have to have the comedy because it's the kids. It's a bunch of kids running around.
Well, not in my movie.
Well, not in your movie. Right.
It's a bunch of has-beens running around.
Right. It's a bunch of has-beens running around, but it still works.
Yeah.
So, Joe Jackson, we already agreed we're going to take my Idris.
Yeah. I think Ice Cube was still a solid choice.
Oh, 100% a solid choice.
Plus with his work with F. Gary Gray, too.
Yeah.
Whatever. So I think there's a good dynamic there. But yeah, Idris he's not only our Darth Maul, he's our Joe Jackson.
He's our Joe Jackson. Yeah. It's, I didn't want to say anything when you picked Idris because I didn't want to give this one away, but I was like, this is something interesting. Like, me and Joad have picked other people or picked same things on the same one, but we picked the same person, but for two different projects.
Yeah.
And that's a new one. That's something new. So for your Jermaine, you had
Lakeith Stanfield. Again, I'm sorry if I'm butchering the name.
You're all right. It's I know who that is, and I can Lakeith. It's Lakeith Stanfield.
Lakeith, okay.
Yep. And I know who that is, and yeah, absolutely.
I just wanted to stack this movie with.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're stacking it with massive talent, is what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like, he was just in Knives Out.
But I think if we're gonna do something like about the Jackson 5, I think you got to go in you have to go all in.
Yeah. Absolutely. Abso-fucking-lutely, you do. Yeah, and he was Snoop in Straight Outta Compton.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And you had Bobby J?
Yep, I had Bobby J. Thompson.
Yeah. Solid choices. I'm I'm more unfamiliar with the kid actors. You have children. I don't. So I'm like, I had to type and look up.
No, and that's totally legit. You had Jordan Peele as Tito. I had Jaden Smith. George. I mean, yeah. I mean, once again, I had Jordan Peele for a different role than what you had, but at the same time, I mean, boom. Yeah. You know what?
Watch both of these movies.
I watched both of them. Or better yet, make yours the sequel. You can have Jordan Peele play the Jaden Smith character when he's older.
That would be amazing. We just created a movie and a sequel.
We just created a movie and a sequel. Next up, I think we had, was it Jackie?
Yeah, Jackie. I went with John Boyega.
I love
famous
John
for
Boyega.
his
Role
in the latest Star Wars movies. For their faults, his role is not one of them for me.
His role's not no, fuck no. And then for your Marlon, you had,
Who'd you have for your Jack?
I had Terrell Jackson Williams by Jackie.
Yeah, solid choices. I don't know who that is.
That's okay. You can look. It's fine. You can look them up.
So, yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So, who do we have next?
We have Marlon next.
Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah, Michael.
God, that first Creed movie, man, was
so good.
Like, that's the best.
It was
second best Rocky movie.
It was way better than it needed to be. It was so much better than it. You know what though? I'm gonna tell a story. I had rented Rocky Balboa as a joke and invited a bunch of people over. We were gonna rip it apart. And because the last Rocky movie was it Rocky 6 or was it Rocky 5? I can't remember.
Rocky 5.
Rocky 5.
Like the traumatic brain stuff.
Damage. Where it was a terrible movie.
And it followed up like my personal favorite, and it's the most dog shit of them all, is Rocky 4, where he wins the Cold War.
Yeah. He wins the Cold War.
He's a robot, and that's Creed is a direct sequel to that one, which is another thing that blows my socks off.
Right. So, Rocky Balboa, though, I remember watching it, and we were going to make fun of it, and halfway through the movie, we all looked at each other and went, fuck, this isn't as bad as we thought it was going to be. Like, we went in with the lowest of expectations. By the time we're done with that movie, we were like, it wasn't as bad as we really went in and thought it was going to be. Creed, I had the exact same experience.
Yeah, I like Creed a lot.
I like Creed a lot.
After the first Rocky movie, I think Creed is the best. I even put it up there. I think it's tied for me with Rocky 1.
Oh, absolutely.
They're both kind of more grounded.
Mm-hmm.
And they're both just well done, and they're gritty, and there's none of this cartoonish stuff we got with the sequels.
Yeah, no. Especially Rocky 3.
Yeah.
Rocky 3.
Clubber Lang. Mr. T.
Oh God, it was just awful. So, yeah. He's amazing. And finally, our Michaels. There's no question. I mean, we both had you would have won this had I gone with the adult version. I will say this right now.
Donald Glover's hard to top. He's just phenomenal.
Childish Gambino himself. Yeah. How the fuck are you going to top him?
Yeah, I mean, like, I first got, like a lot of people, like, I first learned about him from Community. Then I found out, like, at his late teens, he was actually a writer on 30 Rock. Like, the guy is fucking just
massively talented.
Just talent, out of the.
Now, do you know how he got the name Childish Gambino, by the way?
No.
So he and his friends are fucking around online with a Wu-Tang Clan member generator online, and his came up with Childish Gambino, and he's like, wait a minute, they're on to something here, and that's how he got the name Childish Gambino.
I'm looking up yeah, so his farewell also on Community.
Yeah.
Very meta. Like his last episode, he's going to go sail the world. He's been given this boat by the Chevy Chase's now dead character.
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole thing. Like
That's the whole thing.
that would be like a dream project too. Is Chevy Chase, Dan Harmon, and the Fall of Community?
Oh God, just Chevy Chase in general, dude. I would do a Chevy
God.
Chase story.
Yeah, but like it gets a boat and it's called the Childish Tycoon.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, I love Donald Glover so much. He's just, yeah.
Yeah.
But again, mine's gonna be the sequel to your movie.
Yes. Yours is going to be the sequel, so I will totally take that. All right. Well, let's take our last break here, and we'll come back and we'll close this out.
Sounds good.
All right. We'll be back in a bit.
Don't give me your reasons to stay. I won't be listening, babe. Either way.
All right. Holy shit, Joe. We made it through.
Yeah. We went on long tangents too.
We
We
did
need
not have.
Joad here.
We need Joe. We had no grounding.
There was nothing cementing us back to Earth.
No, you and I were just like, yes, run with your tangent, sir. Run with your tangent.
Come back, Joad. I can't do this anymore.
This was very much like an episode of our Above a Convenience Store, wasn't it?
Yeah. And even then, like we don't have as many subjects, and we're going off on longer tangents.
I
know. We kind of reeled it in a bit, I think, just because we had so much to cover.
Yeah, we did. We could have been way worse than what we were. So I will give us
if you want to hear us at our peak, listen to the Fire Walk with Me podcast.
How long was that one?
Over 3 hours.
It's over 3 hours for a movie that's 2 hours long. Our podcast was longer than the actual movie.
Oh boy.
Yeah. No, you guys. Yeah, if you guys enjoyed this, by all means, treat yourself and listen to our Fire Walk with Me review. And then, if you're in the Twin Peaks, check out what we do over there, which is, our podcast above a convenience store, talking Twin Peaks. Joe, what else do you have going on? You have a blog.
Yeah, the Joe Down with me and Joe Brown. We review movies. We don't know what the other ones were. The other one, we don't get veto on what the other picks. When this episode comes out, the episode that we will have up should be the new Sonic the Hedgehog movie.
Oh God, you saw that.
Not yet.
You haven't seen it yet. Okay.
By the time this comes out, I'll have been traumatized by Sonic and Jim Carrey.
I have not seen it yet myself. My kids have been begging me to rent it.
Yeah, and I'm still debating on what I want to do for the follow-up to that. And we should now, I think, what do you and Joad have come up for the next cast? Because I'm going to be able to listen to this now. Doing this is fun, but I'd rather be listening to you and Joad talking about stuff.
So I'll give away the dream project. The dream project that we have coming up on the next Cast That Movie is going to be Red Dead Redemption, the movie.
Ooh.
Yes.
Like the making of the game? Or?
No, like making the game a movie.
Ooh.
Making Red Dead Redemption, the game, a movie. Yep.
Haven't we learned from Street Fighter, the game, the movie?
Well, this is what there's been some good ones out there. There's been some good. I mean, you're gonna watch.
Name one video game movie that was good.
You're gonna watch Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, I guess.
Alone in the Dark had Christian Slater.
I mean, the one that I have the least amount of trouble with is probably the first Mortal Kombat movie.
Yeah,
at least it makes sense. It's not great, but it's good to if you want to sit down with friends and MST3K it. It's a lot of fun.
Hey, it has the Highlander in it, you fuck. You leave Christopher Lambert alone. The only problem with that movie was they didn't cast Michael Ironside as
Oh,
Shao
Clancy
Kahn.
Brown should have been Goro. Oh,
Mario
but
Van Peebles could have been Jax then.
and I think we should bring up now why exactly Joad is missing, because this is
Yes.
another plug. It's been a while since the start of this, but I think we left a little hint that we have something about him.
Joad is dead, wrapped in plastic. No, no. We have another.
And died in impact.
we have another podcast coming, which is the Office podcast. So it's going to be Joad, myself, and you, Joe.
Yeah. So now Joad's gonna have to try to reel in two people.
Oh, he's gonna have his hands full on this one.
I'm sorry, Joad. I'm just gonna apologize in advance.
Yeah. You got dude. You did this to yourself, Joad. So what it's gonna be is Joad is a mega fan of The Office. Joe is a big fan of The Office. I have never seen a full episode. So what's going to happen is that we're going to go through. It's going to be a much shorter podcast than the Twin Peaks, than this one, where we're just going to go one episode at a time, discuss it. They're going to kind of get into the fandom of it, and then they're going to mark my reactions of being a person who's seen it for the first time. That's essentially the premise of the new podcast. Now you have 3 podcasts that you can find on the joedown.blog, which would be Cast That Movie, the Twin Peaks, and this new one. I don't know. I'll wait to put out the name of it until Joad officially announces it.
Yeah, the reason I'm sitting in is he's working on the nuts and bolts and the details of the Office podcast. So.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he is. So, you guys...
I'm excited for it.
I'm excited. I'm excited for it because I've never watched The Office, and this is an excuse for me to watch it.
Yeah, and I told Paul, so I bought it digitally because I didn't want to... I got rid of Netflix a while back just because it was $15 a month, and I just wasn't watching it enough to justify that. And then I did the math in my head, and I was like, so I got it pretty cheap off Vudu. And the first night after we discussed it, I was like, I'm only going to watch the first episode of what we're going to be podcasting on. I ended up watching the entire first season and about half of the second season in one night.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I'm excited. I wait till we get closer to the podcast to finally dig in and watch it, because I want to be as fresh as possible when we come in with, because again, I have no recollection. I have no real, like I said, I think I've seen 5 minutes here and there flipping through channels on TV, which, to give you guys an idea, I don't have live television. So the only time I've ever actually seen it is like when I've had to go like on a work trip at a hotel or something. And I'll catch like 5 minutes of it. And that's the most I have of The Office. Yeah. I know people are like, what? You guys, I have so much other things going on. Do you hear all the shitty movies I watch?
Oh, God. Shudder alone is up to my crappy horror movie intake to new levels.
Yes, I've gone on from Shudder, I've Shout, and I just got Full Moon.
Woo!
Yeah, I just got Full Moon. What is it called? It's the Full Moon channel. And that one is full of special movies, Joe. Again, I'll give them a free plug because I like it. It's Full Moon Features. and you could get it on Amazon. It's like $7 a month. And it has just some, I mean, I did not know there were like 10 Puppet Masters now.
Oh God!
And it has all of them.
Even the one with Mark from the room.
What's that?
Even the one with Mark from the room.
Even the one from Mark from the room, which I have seen. I mean, it's got everything on this thing. It's got Trancers 1 through 6, I think. It's I mean, this thing is just it's a gold mine of terrible movies, and a lot of them are from the Full Moon Direct, which is a the Charles Band production company. So yeah, I'm a big fan of it. It is something special. They just released Barbie and Kendra Save the Tiger King. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yep. Movies like Nude Zombie Chicks and Castle Freak. And
I just saw Castle Freak on Last Drive-In's first season.
Yes. Coronavirus is on here.
It take them long enough.
No, it didn't take them long. Trancers 6 is finally out. The Shrunken Head, Bad Channels, Oblivion 2, Backlash. When you get done with Shudder, you owe it to yourself to check out Full Moon features.
Oh God, I don't know.
Yeah,
I will. Damn it.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah, it's happening.
It's happening. So, and if you subscribe directly to them and get the 1 year, you get the 12-disc Puppet Master Blu-ray box set.
That's just them asking to do the joke of Mitch Hedberg. That's just asking me to throw something away for them.
Look, you can't go wrong with being able to see Gingerbread Man versus Evil Bong. All right, that's all I'm going to say. All right. So, needless to say, there's a lot going on. Next up, we'll have Joad back. You and I are digging into the Twin Peaks season 2 finale next week.
Yep. And then we'll be doing the 2 books.
The 1 book, sir. The 1 book.
The 1 book, Secret History.
We'll be doing Secret History, which will probably be another 3-4 hour long podcast, warn you guys. And then we're digging into The Return, which I'm super excited for.
I am too.
All right. Well, Joe, once again, thank you for coming in, sitting in for Joad. It's always a pleasure to have you on Cast This Movie. I'm glad we got to do one kind of fully proper this time around.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. I'm just looking forward to going back to listen to you and Joad talk, because I hear enough of my own voice. I just want to hear you guys.
Well, once again, thank you for stepping into Joe's big shoes. You did a great job filling in for it. For Joad, for Joe, and myself, Tom Van Horton, thank you guys again, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.